Good day everyone and welcome back to the Your Average Gamer channel. In this video I'm going to be continuing on my review of weapons in solos and low player game modes. In this episode we are going to be going through one of Call of Duty Warzone's oddity weapons, as I'll call it, the Finn LMG. So the Finn was first added in Warzone Season 5 of the Modern Warfare era. And it came with not really much fanfare as it didn't really catch on, but it came with a lot of curiosity. Most of this came down to the fact that everyone knows about the famous chainsaw which the Finn can be turned into. Using some of the barrels and the hipfire attachments, you can turn this weapon into just a hipfire monster, spewing out rounds like a minigun and just buzzing through the enemies. That's not how we'll be building it in this video, however. Many people don't know that you can build this weapon to actually have one of the lowest times to kill in the game. Using the XRK Longshot Adverse Barrel gives this weapon a superb fire rate, also with very low recoil, so you can absolutely just decimate through enemies. Despite this, you almost never ever see it used. I don't think I've ever been killed by the Finn in Warzone. So I thought, just for fun, I'd take it for a spin and see how good this weapon can be. And I was quite pleasantly surprised. So into just the base Finn's regular stats. Of course, I'm not going to give the stats for the complete base Finn. I'm going to have to give it with the XRK Longshot Adverse Barrel because of how much the barrels change the regular weapon. So with the Adverse Barrel, you get a fire rate of 1,000 rounds per minute and a muzzle velocity of 850 meters per second. This fire rate is higher or on par with a lot of the SMGs in the game, and the muzzle velocity is already pretty close to that magical 1,000 meters per second mark that you aim for, so you don't have to lead your shots by too much at long range. It's worth noting that the Adverse Barrel also has positives with the vertical and horizontal kick of the weapon, so you also get a lot lower recoil. The trade-off for this is that you get lower damage. So the damage profile for this barrel is that you hit 28 damage to the head, but strangely you also hit 28 damage to the neck and to the upper chest. So you don't have to worry too much about hitting only headshots, because if you hit upper chest, you also get the higher damage of 28. To the rest of the body, that includes extremities, lower torso. You can hit him in the toe, you'll do 22 damage. So again, not a massive drop off, and you don't have to worry too much about where you're hitting your shots, because a lower stomach shot will make no difference compared to a foot shot. So all you have to focus on is making sure you hit your opponent, to be honest. Those values are applicable for anyone within 31 meters. Outside of 31 meters, you actually do almost exactly the same damage. You do 27 damage instead of 28 to the head, neck and upper torso, and you do 21 damage to the lower torso, legs, arms, etc. So you only actually lose 1 damage. At some points this could be enough to reduce your shots to kill by 1, but it won't make a huge difference to time to kill due to that enormous fire rate. So really, you don't have to worry too much, as this weapon will be very, very consistent when trying to take down your enemies. So how would I kit this weapon out? Obviously with the Longshot Adverse Barrel for use in-game. Well, in this game, first off, I used the monolithic suppressor. The obvious reason for this is it will keep me off the minimap so I don't get third party too often. However, the other reason to use this is also a massive increase in muzzle velocity by 300 meters per second, and also some small decreases to the horizontal and vertical kick. I'll then use the VLK 3x optic so that I can identify my targets at long range. Fourth attachment, I'll use the Commando foregrip. I like the Commando foregrip as it can massively reduce the amount of vertical and horizontal recoil I have, so I can keep this weapon on target. The last attachment, you can have a choice in this regard. You could use the tactical laser, to reduce the ADS time. The ADS, with all the other attachments taken into account, is 486 milliseconds. On top of that, if you're sprinting, you'll have a further 250 milliseconds sprint to fire, or 375 milliseconds if you're in a tactical sprint. Therefore, you can see this weapon is not going to be snappy. You're not going to be jumping straight into a very quick ADS, so you have to be careful where you use this weapon. You can't expect to quickly snap up and beam people, such as you would with weapons like the Cooper Carbine AR, for example. You'll have to be very careful about where you use your fin and be prepared and potentially even pre-ADS to not suffer from that up to 750 milliseconds ADS time. So if you used the tactical laser as your final attachment, that would reduce your sprint to fire. However, the attachment that I actually went for was a perk. I went for sleight of hand. The reason for this is that despite the weapon's 100-round magazine, when you're firing 1,000 rounds per minute, it doesn't take long to chew through those 100 bullets. And the base reload time of the fin is 6.27 seconds. 6 seconds is an enormous amount of time to be at the fight. On top of that, if you have an empty magazine, this actually increases to 7.6 seconds. Again, this is a huge amount of time to be out the fight, and I'd rather be able to snap back up, because if I have to reload mid-fight, I don't want to have to switch to my SMG and try and use that at long range, because in 6 seconds my opponent will have pushed me and be right up close. With sleight of hand, it reduces this to 4 seconds for regular reload and 5 seconds for an empty reload. This means that I can therefore get my gun back up and back firing a lot quicker, and makes me feel a lot more comfortable with this weapon. So the end result with all these attachments is you end up with a weapon that has a fire rate, again, of 1,000 rounds per minute due to the barrel. The muzzle velocity, thanks to the barrel and the suppressor, has gone up above that 1,000 meters per second mark. Again, reload has come down, as I've said, but you've also reduced your vertical and horizontal recoil compared to the base weapon by almost 40%. So this weapon has next to nothing in recoil. And that's when you also consider that you do that enormous 28 damage to the chest and head. And that pushes the range out to 33 meters for that value. And then outside of 33 meters, you do the 27, 21 damage. To be honest, this weapon could have really low damage values for all I care, because the amount of rounds it spits out, the opponent almost never has time to react before you've downed them, particularly with the low amount of recoil. So you'll see in the background, I am using the MP5 alongside the fin, just so I have something a bit quicker that I can use, because obviously I can't sprint around with the fin. I'm using something with significantly better movement so that I can cover that ground. Again, the game started a little bit slow this time, similar to my Mac 10 video. But then it does really get cooking towards the end when the fin just starts to come into its own. I'll leave you here just to watch the gameplay, and I'll come back at the end for my final review. I really hope you enjoy.
Repositioning. Heading out. Get to the new safe zone. Gas is closing
Bounty
in.
contract identified.
Target identified. Have a little fun, yeah? Gas is right on your tail.
Heading out. Bounty contract relocating.
safe zone. Losing ground.
Buy station identified. Relocating. Bounty contract identified. Requesting recon.
UAV taking flyover. Loadout
now.
drop inbound.
I need recon on my position.
UAV beginning flyover. UAV is out of fuel.
And now.
Ready for resupply. UAV is out of fuel. Returning for resupply. UAV is out of fuel. Returning for resupply.
Movement.
Gas is inbound. Marking new safe zone. Loadout drop headed your way. You've made it to the top 10. Bounty target has been marked. End them.
We got recon online.
Target's down. Gas is
now.
moving.
Heading out.
Five left.
Moving.
Head to the new safe zone. Gas is right on your tail. safe zone. Gas is closing in. Gas is moving. I've got gas inbound. Safe zone relocated. Gas is inbound. All remaining enemies eliminated. Smashing.
So what did I think of the Finn following that gameplay? I'll start with the positives first. The recoil on it is exceptional. It almost doesn't bounce at all. It almost goes directly up as well. It doesn't have side-to-side kick that you'll see sometimes on weapons such as the Ram 7, which pulls to the left, or the Kilo pulling slightly off to the right. This almost goes directly straight up, and the volume of it is almost nothing at all, so it's very easy to control. On top of that, the damage that it can output is just absolutely exceptional. There are quite a few kills where all I had to do was just squeeze the trigger and the opponent was decimated. I found the damage to be brilliant. However, there was definitely quite a few downsides that I did struggle to overcome. The mobility of the weapon is something that I really struggle to overlook, in that if I'm running out in wide open areas, I kept having to constantly have out my Cold War MP5, which if someone had popped out and started shooting at me, I've not got the correct weapon then for that range. But I couldn't run out with the Finn because my movement speed was just so painfully slow that I just couldn't move around the map, so I had to have out my secondary. On top of that, the ADS time of the Finn was absolutely horrific. A few times I saw someone run across in front of me and I couldn't switch to the weapon, get it up and raised, and start firing quickly enough before they got in cover. So that was a real downside. With that considered, I think I'm going to give the Finn about a 6 out of 10. It's definitely a strong weapon. It doesn't deserve a really low rating compared to some other weapons that are out there. However, it definitely does not feel, at least for Caldera, even close to being on par with, say, some of the stronger assault rifles or even top-tier LMGs such as the Bruin. So I think it's kind of a middle-of-the-park weapon. If you want to give yourself maybe a challenge, I would recommend giving it a try. But if you're looking for a seriously competitive weapon, I would steer clear of the Finn. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed the gameplay and my commentary and review. If you have, please drop a like, please subscribe. It makes a massive difference to my channel and really helps get my videos out there for the wider viewing. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you on the next video.